Right.
Which we are.
When they see, amen. Yes, most definitely. But when they see two men, when they see two men, it's a different thing. And so black gay men are one of the most oppressed, especially if you're feminine, one of the most oppressed populations of people in the world. So inside of having to deal with the fact that you're black and the strike's already against you, then turn around and then now you're black and gay, where your people feel you're an abomination. They reject you just like Christ rejected Christ. But then your church also, the very place that you look to be lifted up, look to be edified, it now considers you an abomination. That whole thing about love the sinner, hate the sin. I ain't found nobody able to do that yet. So here we are asking God what? But God says, seek me and you'll find me.
That's right.
And to understand that seeking is a continuum. You can never finish seeking. Never finish seeking. That's just what it means to, because ministry is always ahead of you. God is always ahead of you because God has always prepared the way for you. So religion will keep you held to yesterday. Keep you wanting to go back to yesterday. Ain't nothing in yesterday that I need.
That's right.
You know, everything that I needed in yesterday is taken care of and is gone. Now God is preparing me for my new day. And inside of my new day, if I'm going to be delivered from oppression, if I'm going to be delivered from depression, if I'm going to be delivered from all those things, as I said Sunday, the greatest thing that we need to be delivered from is ourselves.
That's right.
So the Bible says to renew your mind. What you going to renew it with? You're going to renew it with something different, because you can't do the same thing, can't be reading the same thing in the same way and think you're going to get a different result.
That's right.
Something has got to change. So it's either going to be the way, since I do hold the word high esteem, it's my journey, it's a guide for me in my life. So I do hold it in high esteem, but I've got to look at it differently. I've got to read it differently, because I refuse to believe. Now for me, my life changed when God spoke to me, you know, in a very different way for me, at a time in my life when I was really thinking about death, wanting to commit suicide, as well as into drugs and all. God spoke to me one morning in the midst of my killing myself in terms of drugs and all, and changed my entire life. So since then, for me, nobody can tell me anything in terms, after God speaks, and you know it's God speaking to you, nobody can tell you anything else. So God spoke life into me. And since God spoke life into me, I'm seeking life, staying in life. Not just life, but life more abundant. And that abundance, once you taste God, it says, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. You just can't go back. You know, I refuse to go back to bondage. Galatians 5:1, I will not be entangled in that very thing that had me in bondage once God has set me free. Now, homosexuality, I can be in bondage in homosexuality, the same way that a heterosexual can be in bondage in heterosexual. You know, I can be in bondage in sex. Sex can have me dangling like on a string, you know, because specifically for the eyes, you know, it opens up the heart. So I can get in bondage. I can get in bondage in those areas, but God has set me free. God has made me free, so I can love. And I can love without lust being overtaking me, and I get wrapped up into what I think Paul is talking about in Romans when he talks about being given over to your lust and to your. That's the area where we can be. But once God has made me free, and I no longer are living under those extreme extremities of lust, and I understand how to love myself because God has showed me how to love myself. And once I know how to love myself, then I can love somebody else. But the problem is, and I end with this because you got a preacher talking. we don't know what love is, some of us.
Right.
So when you're talking to people about love, and they be like, I love myself, it takes God, it takes Christ, it takes the Spirit of the Lord to show you what love is.
Yeah, and it takes a relationship.
Between love and lust.
Right, but it also takes a relationship with God.
Amen.
Like, particularly for those of us who are gender non-conforming, who are other than heterosexual, that it is my experience is that it's a constant conversation and in relationship with God that shores me up, that has me know that in spite of what the world might say, that God is really abiding in me and with me and through me, right? And so it's a much more difficult journey for those of us who are not heterosexual because of all of the things that you described, and it requires a constant dedication to God in conversation. Because just like you said, a child who gets negatively, gets negative messages, for us as other than heterosexual, our messages around being blessed and being loved and being abundant often has to come from God, because we're not going to hear it, even though we have churches like our churches that affirm who we are. There are too many of us, and all of us ain't in our churches.
Right.
And so having relationship, having a relationship with God, and what interests me around what I would like to have a conversation around is how do we get that message out around having a relationship with God that is your own and your personal. Because many folks ain't going to come to church for a whole host of reasons, be they gay or straight, right? And so how do we do that? How do we get into the conversations with young folks who are thinking about killing themselves, whether intentionally or unintentional? And how do we have the conversation around you matter, that God sees you as divine, right? And I don't think that we do a good job at that, because if we did, we wouldn't be faced with these suicides. And this ain't new. Suicide ain't new.
Right. We discussed this the other day that it's not new. It's just that the media is now glorifying almost.
But yet that makes for us to be responsible in a response to it.
Right. We're accountable now because they're putting it out there.
Right. And then the other thing I wanted to talk to, this thing around, in the context of our sexuality, around a decision. I didn't make a decision to be a lesbian. You know what I mean? Like there were many times when I smoked crack too, I thought I was going to die because I was trying to figure out, why am I loving another woman?
I know that's right.
There's many times that I prayed and I cried and I tarried and I did all kinds of things to ask God, like, take this thing that folks say it ain't natural, take it away from me. So I didn't choose to be lesbian, and I didn't choose to be dyke. And being a dyke is very difficult. It's a journey. It's a journey. It's the same premise of being a black gay man. That we are not seen, those of us who identify as masculine, we are not affirmed in the same ways that feminine identified women are. And so when we say, decision making, did we decide to be this way? I didn't decide to be bashed in a subway station when I was 18 years old, coming from a party from better days. Like I was I'm too young for that.